What happens when we start dropping into fear and worry is that we tend to react emotionally to the situation versus respond intentionally with our wise mind.
Welcome to the Healthy Screen Habits Podcast. I'm Hillary Wilkinson. Whether you're starting your parenting journey with a newborn or looking to connect with your teen on technology, let's learn some new healthy screen habits together. The mission of Healthy Screen Habits is to empower families to create healthy habits for screen use while maintaining technology as a tool, never a replacement for human connection. So my guest today is all about connection. As a life coach for the parents of teenagers, she helps make parenting easier by teaching new communication strategies that reduce conflict and create calm. She has 3 adult children of her own and is going to teach us all about creating positive, meaningful relationships with the people in our own home. Welcome to Healthy Screen Habits, Jeanine Mouchawar.
Thanks, Hillary. I'm so happy to be here. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Same. Okay, so Jeanine, before we get started with any of the screen habit stuff, this term life coach is one that I was unfamiliar with up until maybe about, I want to say like 7 years ago. And now I feel like I hear it everywhere, but I'm still a little unclear as to what it is. So what is a life coach? How does it differ from, say, like a therapist or a social worker?
Sure. Yeah. I actually am right there with you. I didn't know what one was either a decade ago. And I kind of fell into it because of some family circumstances. But I think the easiest way to understand what it is, at least for me, I come from a family of athletes. If you think about a professional athlete wants to be the best, right? He's good, but he wants to be great. He hires a coach, right? And the coach provides new strategies, maybe a new, different mindset, different way to think about things so they can have the best outcome possible. And so a life coach is very similar. We meet with clients, we get to understand what's going on in their life, where they're getting stuck, and then talk to them about, well, ideally, what do you want your life to be at? What do you want it to look like? And why? And then we help you get there. We partner with you and, teach tools, teach strategies, ask really great questions to kind of unearth if you've got a belief that's keeping you stuck, a thought that's keeping you stuck, maybe assumptions you're making or interpretations. That's a big one for parents of teens, and how it's stopping you from really having the life that you want, in this case, as a parent with your teen.
So one of the things that gets a lot of focus in this niche of the world that I'm in, called digital wellness, is this disruptive nature that tech has upon relationships and relational health. That's the big thing that we focus on, is that relational health. And it would seem like this is where your superpowers can really come out. So can you give us an idea, what are most parents of teens struggling with today?
Yeah. Ooh, a lot of things, right? I mean, I think they observe their teens, doing behaviors that worry them, actions that worry them. Maybe it's too much time on their tech. Maybe their grades are suffering. Maybe they're picking friends that they think are a healthy match for them. Um, a whole host of things. And when parents see behaviors that they find worrisome, they tend to want to fix it. And so they talk to their teen in a way that's telling them what they should do, what they need to do, maybe the right way to do things, or offering your wisdom or your lesson. and your life lesson. And when they get to be a teenager, they think, well, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't get me. You don't understand me. You don't understand what's going on with me. And so they tend not to listen, or they'll pay lip service, or some to the point will literally say, get out of my room, and push you away and disconnect from you. And I think parents are left feeling like, I can't get my teen to listen. If they just listen to me, all would be okay. And instead, what they're left with is this like constant battles and conflict.
Mm. Yeah. So because we're healthy screen habits and because I'm the parent of a teen, I'm just wondering, we're going to get into your 5 steps, but I find it interesting that you're bringing up this concept of like parents having a disconnect from their teens. I just did a 2-day workshop in a local high school, and one of the things that I do in the workshop is I have the kids write out one thing they wish their parents understood about tech. Okay. And much of what was being said was, it just seems like there's this great misunderstanding where most parents are coming from what sounds to me to be a place of fear, which is completely understandable. But there's almost this by trying to over control, they're almost severing relationship ties. It feels like, does that sound familiar to you or no? Because like when I was talking to the kids,
100%. Yeah.
mm,
100%. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Parents see, like, let's see, they see their child using tech, they're on TikTok or they're playing a video game, and then all of a sudden they get a bad grade, right? They associate the two and assume that the tech's the problem and want to shut it down. And so they, approach them out of, like you said, out of fear, and having a conversation from there tends to shut the conversation down, and the child stops listening because, to your point, exactly what they were saying and telling you is they feel like you don't get it, or in your words, they feel misunderstood. So if you start with first relating to them and showing that you understand how compelling, how exciting the tech can be for them, then they're more open to having a conversation around the impact of tech on their life. But
yeah.
that's what we don't do. Right?
Mhm.
We don't start with, hey, like my son just got that new video game that's Harry Potter themed, right? So, and the old me, before I knew these strategies, would have been like, get off your tech, you need to study, right? Or get off the video game. All you do is watch video games all the time. And, as we all do, have that sort of emotional gut reaction because out of fear, we're worried there's going to be a negative impact from it on their grades, on their well-being in terms of health or emotions. And, now with these tools, I'm realizing, wow, in order to really have an impact on the amount of time he's spending on this new game, it's more effective if I start asking him about it. Oh, I
Yeah.
see you got this new game. What are you playing? Oh, what do you like about it? What's interesting? Right?
It's
So you
so,
start with the conversation in their world.
my gosh, it's so interesting to me how similar the parenting advice of, and I would never say this in front of teenagers, but how similar it is to parenting toddlers. The whole connect before you correct. My background's in early childhood development. And so it's like I just see this overlap again and again and again. That connect before you correct, seek to understand before making a move forward, and the navigation of this time will go a little smoother. The other thing that I think the teens felt very misunderstood about, just in reading the comments from these cards, was the lack of understanding that parents have that they're using their tech as a tool. They are not just using it as a toy or entertainment. They were saying, I mean, these are high flying teens. They're applying for colleges at this point. They're, I mean, they are very focused. And they were saying, my mom sees me on my phone and all she thinks I'm doing is social media. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm doing my updates because my coach just told me that I have to keep my, and it's like, yes, yes, perhaps it is social media, but perhaps I'm using it for a different reason. Or maybe I'm the president of this club on campus and we're arranging an event. So I think I cannot underline what you're saying enough of like take a step back because it will put you a step ahead. It's connect before you correct.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. I think I've got like this model that I teach, like first engage, then connect. And at the end, we'll work on the cooperation, right? Or the behavior itself. You got to back it up and first figure out how to engage in a conversation, then figure out how to connect with them, so they end up being able to maybe make a different choice. But yeah, what you're talking about when the teen said like they're using it as a tool, it kind of piggybacks on what we talked about at the beginning, that oftentimes parents, including myself, make assumptions and interpretations, right, as to what they are doing on their phone. And then we get really angry, right? We just assume that they're using it for entertainment purposes when they might actually be using it as a tool. And so when you can slow yourself down and start with a question, like, oh, hey, what's going on? What you doing? Or, right, oh, like come from a place more of curiosity versus a place of control and authority, before you speak, you have a much better chance of getting more of the outcome that you're looking for.
That is golden. Yeah. Okay. So next, let's talk about things that we can do to make parenting with tech easier. But first, we have to take a little break.
Are you looking to get your child a phone but don't know where to start? Good news. Healthy Screen Habits has done the legwork for you, and our answer is Gab Wireless. Gab Wireless created the phone that parents have all been asking for. It can text but doesn't receive or send pictures. It looks like a smartphone with a touchscreen, has talk, text, calculator, calendar, FM radio, and alarm functions, but no internet. Setup is super easy. Plug it in and start charging. Activation is free, shipping is free, and the best news is that Gab Wireless phones start at under $100. Now, even more good news. You can get $5 off your order of a Gab Wireless phone by using the promo code HS Habits. That's HS Habits, like Healthy Screen Habits, but short. You can find a link to Gab Wireless under the Tools tab on our website at www.healthyscreenhabits.org. Press and hold the tab menu and look under Products We Endorse in the drop-down menu.
I'm speaking with Jeanine Mouchawar, parenting coach extraordinaire. She is passionate about helping parents learn how to teach their teens cooperation, responsibility, and critical life skills to empower them for success. So, Jeanine, true confession time. Sometimes I invite guests for purely selfish motives. This is partially one of those times.
All right. Hopefully I can help.
However, I feel I would be remiss if I passed up an opportunity to ask an expert on teenagers while parenting my own. So when you list this, critical life skills, and I'm like, well, what life skills do you think are critical for ongoing success? Because clearly you have a lot more experience in knowing all of this.
Yeah. Great question. When it comes to life skills, I think what happens is we kind of look what we're doing when we're parenting. Like I noticed I was trying to fix the situation a lot or do things for my child or solving the problem or telling them how to solve the problem. And when you think about that, those are all life skills that we really want our teenagers to develop so that when they leave our nest, and, you know, and they're 18 and they go do college or whatever other choice they make, that they have these skills to take with them, you know. But when we get really scared or fearful about choices they're making and solutions they're coming up with, and we start offering our own instead of helping them do the heavy lifting, like think through what is the best choice here when I'm facing this problem, right? So we want to give them the opportunity in the room to create, to go through the thought work of solving their own problems in the safety of our home when they're in high school, right? Because when they're in high school, they're living with us and we can be that safety net.
Right.
It's much more challenging to send them off into the world. They don't have these problem solving life skills. And now combined with, we're no longer a safety net there for them. And that's when I see a lot of kids, you know, getting a lot of anxiety and stress, often coming back home because they don't have the tools and the skills to cope with just, you know, getting to class on time, how to talk to a professor when there's a challenge going on, how do I eat healthy, how do I monitor my sleep habits, how do I monitor my tech habits, right?
Yeah.
So I can basically be living the life that I want to live. So
Yeah,
all those
I can absolutely see how the overwhelm would hit hard if there was no chance to practice. And I'm like, I'm tying it all in with that coach thing, because I'm like, yeah, you don't wait until the game to expect performance. You practice, 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 practice.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah,
And what
yeah,
I notice is, as parents, it's so natural to come in and say, hey, you should do this, or you need to do this, or you offer your wisdom or your life lesson, or you explain the quote, you know, the right way to do it. And why we're so well intentioned and we want the best for our children, it's why we're saying that. It's also, well, one, the kid usually disconnects because they don't want to hear what you have to say. But also, if you just take a step back and realizing, oh, you know, I'm actually robbing them from developing those life skills that they need so they can launch, you know, when it's time.
right, right. So there's a lot of buzz about the data about the human brain not being fully formed, not having the ability to perform executive function skills. What I'm talking about is the development of the prefrontal lobes. And so when I talk to some parents, that's the pushback, is like, well, they don't even have the ability right now. They don't even have the brain power. So what would be your, this is totally becoming just my conversation that I want to have with you.
I love it. So good.
But what would be your pushback on that? Because I'm like, I kind of feel like you, like, no, it's not that they're, I mean, I feel like you have to kind of coach them through this process to develop those executive functioning skills. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No. Oh my gosh. No, you're so right. Right. We don't want to get sort of into an all or nothing thing, like where either I've got to provide all of the solutions or none of the solutions. What I, you know, my whole philosophy is let's find the middle ground here. When they're teenagers, we need a middle ground. And one analogy that my clients find super helpful is to think about it as, you know, from 0 to 12, 0 to 13, you were the senior level manager, right? And you were hands-on and they needed your guidance. They needed a lot of interaction. They needed to be told, hey, this is how you do things. They needed your help fixing things, right? Very hands-on. But when they're a teenager, think about it as you've been promoted to CEO, right? So a CEO is not going to let the people under them just have a free-for-all, right? They're the leader. They're guiding and influencing with leadership. They're teaching instead of making them do it a certain way, right? Or trying to control them doing it a certain way. Instead, they're more in the background, teaching, guiding, motivating. That's your new role. It's not
And
to abandon them altogether, because you're right. Their frontal lobes are not fully developed. And, they have many kids have trouble controlling their impulses
mhm.
or having the life experiences to make safe choices. So we want to set boundaries. We want to set limits in the context of it will turn out more successful if you're thinking, how can I teach them versus how can I make them?
Mhm,
It's a little
mhm.
more of CEO leadership skills versus like the hands-on manager skills.
Got you. Okay, so I know you have this 5-step process to build and strengthen family connections. Can you share some of the steps with us to help with cooperation regarding technology specifically?
Sure, absolutely. So let's take the example of your daughter's on TikTok, and you feel like she's consumed with her appearance. She's like, how do I do my hair? What about my makeup? What do I wear? All those sorts of things. And you look at that and you get worried and scared, like she's beautiful just the way she is, right? And you want to help her be confident and just authentically her. So you get worried. And what happens when we start dropping into fear and worry is that we tend to react emotionally to the situation versus respond intentionally with our wise mind. And so the first step in my foundational 5-step process that we work on is first calming your own nervous system before you engage in a conversation with your teenager. So
Hmm.
that's step one. There's
Yeah.
lots of obviously intricacies to that, but we have very limited time today.
Right. No,
But
I think I feel like I've asked you to cure the common cold here with like, in about 15 minutes, can we do this? So that was
yes,
not fair.
so
It's not fair.
take it with a grain of salt. I usually work with clients for 6 months, so this is a little taste. But it's the concepts. It's the concepts.
Yes.
And so when you move into steps 2 and 3, steps 2 is about stating your observation with no tone, no judgment, just what you see. And step 3 is following that with a curious question. So that might sound something like, hey, I noticed, you've been on TikTok looking at, Kim Kardashian or whoever they follow these days. What's up with that? What's going on there? Right? Because it's like we were talking about before, Hillary. You first want to engage them in a conversation. And this is, I help parents with scripts to get them to engage their teen in a conversation versus their teen throwing the wall up or paying lip service or pushing them away. So steps 1, 2, 3 starts with helping engage them in a conversation. And then step 4 is about that connection we talked about. And for there, it's, I teach parents how to validate what their kids are feeling and experiencing. And that's something that I know I was missing, and I noticed lots of my clients are missing too, is helping your child feel like, hey, I am on your team. I am on your side. I understand. I'm listening. Just coming from that place of really trying to connect. And when you do that, also normalizing their feelings. Right. So they might feel like they have no choice but to be on this influencer's social media watching what they're doing because they want to fit in, right? They want to feel like that they're doing what everybody else is doing. That's a natural teen desire. And so the validation piece and connecting with them in terms of their feelings there's twofold. One is helping them feel like you're on their side and on their team. And the other is to help them feel like, hey, nothing's wrong with you. It's perfectly normal what the desire that you have to want to fit in.
Mhm.
And so when we go through that step 4, that's what creates the connection so that we can get to step 5, which is the cooperation and what we just talked about earlier, which is how to help them build these life skills that they want. Right. So in terms of this example, you might after you feel like, okay, I'm connecting with her, she's engaged in this conversation with me, like we're having this great conversation, then you can ask a question like, hey, I'm just curious, like, how does it make you feel when you are following that influencer? Right?
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
they're
And starting to explore a little, whether it's serving them or draining
exactly,
them. Mm.
exactly, that's exactly what we want to do, right? So once we create the connection, we can start creating awareness for our child as to how the tech makes them feel. Because when they make that connection, Hillary, then they're more empowered to make the decision, is this what I want to be doing with my time?
I love it. Love it. All of it. I wish we had more time.
Me
It's so
too.
much
I
to
love talking about
digest.
it.
But when we come back, I'm going to ask Jeanine for her healthy screen habit.
At what age should I give my child a smartphone? How much screen time should I allow each day? What are the best filters to use on my family's devices? Sound familiar? These questions and more are answered at the Healthy Screen Habits website. We've curated the best articles, books, videos, and many other resources to help you figure out how you want to use technology in your life. Click on the awareness section to learn about the issues and dangers surrounding screen use. Then click on the tools page to download printables you can use with your family today, including the Healthy Screen Habits Family Technology Plan. Visit our website at www.healthyscreenhabits.org for the resources and tools you need to get started.
I'm talking with Jeanine Mouchawar, a parent coach who specializes in parenting teenagers. So, Jeanine, on every episode of the Healthy Screen Habits podcast, I ask each guest for a healthy screen habit, which is a tip or takeaway that our listeners can put into practice in their own home. Do you have one?
Of course I do. I love this question. It actually piggybacks off what we were just talking about. And just this whole episode where, you want to first engage and connect with your child. And after you've done that, a beautiful question to ask is, how do you feel when you're on your screen? How do you feel when you're playing the video games or after you get off of the video game? Like, are you tense? Are you angry? Right? Are you like happy and joyful? How do you feel after you've spent, a half hour looking at an influencer on TikTok? Like, are you feeling confident about yourself? Do you feel good about yourself? And to start really getting that conversation going where your teen can start reflecting on how their tech makes them feel.
I love that because I also feel like that holds hands with what you were talking about earlier of kind of like leading them without saying, without slapping the hammer down on something. But with that, you're making them like realize what they're doing may or may not be the best idea for them. But when the decision comes from them to drop an account or to, put up some screen time limits, it's so much more powerful than if
right. That's how it's effective.
Yeah.
Right. And that's being a leader and teaching.
Yeah.
Right?
I love
Teaching
it.
them to come up with their own solution to make themselves feel better. That's how they actually do it because they have buy-in, because they've realized, teens lead with, hey, what's in it for me? What's the benefit to me? And so when you can lead them to that, they're more likely to change their screen habits.
And I love it that as of this episode, I think every mom can go ahead and promote herself to CEO. Okay.
Absolutely. I love it. Let's be a bunch of CEO moms of teens. I love it.
Exactly. As always, you can find a complete transcript of this show and a link to Jeanine Mouchawar coaching by going to healthyscreenhabits.org, click the podcast button, and scroll down to find this episode. Jeanine, thank you for the job promotion, the conversation, all of it. It's been great. Thanks so much.
Hillary, thanks for having me. It was an honor to be here.
For more information, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Healthy Screen Habits. Make sure to visit our website, healthyscreenhabits.org, where you can subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. It's free, it's fun, and you get a healthy new screen habit each week. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you giving us a quick rating. It really does help other people find us and spread the word of healthy screen habits. Or if you'd simply like to tell a friend, we'd love that too. I so appreciate you spending your time with me this week, and I look forward to learning more healthy habits together.